For some reason, what I'm about to get into here with Tim Pool hasn't seen much traction or attention brought to it with content creators out here that talk about news, politics, current events, or even internet drama. This is when it should be getting a lot of it from a large number of them. Hell, it should be getting attention from the legacy media and hack sites like Right Wing Watch, Vox, and the Daily Beast as well, with how Tim is on their radar. It is the perfect hit piece for them, and it is all true. Saying that, the situation we find him in, which he's admitted to the accusation through an intermediary going around white knighting for him, is without a doubt criminal and beyond scummy too. One would think with that being the case, they'd be jumping at the issue to try to destroy him, which they actually could if they were to take advantage of it and full court press him with it. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the news organization Subverse, so I'm going to give you a basic rundown because it plays a key part in the scandal Tim finds himself far more than neck deep in. Originally, it was started by his brother Chris. Tim saw that it was drawing in views and getting clicks, so he made the offer to Chris for him to move from Chicago to New Jersey to live with him, which he wouldn't pay rent. Tim would use his contacts to bring in venture capitalists, and he would get a piece of the company in exchange for this. This was while Chris handled the back end of the site and continued doing what he was doing otherwise with it. To give you a time frame, I am guessing this was about the time that Tim started shilling for Subverse. Eventually, being the simp he is, Tim brought a female friend from Chicago to New Jersey to live with them and work on articles for Subverse after convincing Chris to give her a piece of the company as payment for her doing it. At some point, the equity wasn't enough for her, so Tim started paying her $25 a month out of his own pocket on top of this and even financed multiple trips to Paris for her to walk around and come up with stories while there. Basically, he paid for what amounted to her getting free vacations to go there and do fuck all of anything actually productive. Which her writing work for Subverse, from what I understand, wasn't much different from her Paris work. Here is Tim basically supporting this woman, giving her an allowance of $2,500 a month, paying for her to take multiple vacations to Paris, which of course through all of this, she isn't pulling her weight with Subverse, and somehow she deserved equity in the company. He's got all of the responsibility of a sugar daddy with all this, but none of the perks with her. That makes him a simp. One that is the highest levels of symptom. He could win the Simp of the Year award because of this. Because most simps aren't fully supporting a woman like he is. The only men who are in similar shoes, unlike him, are generally at least getting laid for their troubles and the expense of supporting a woman they aren't in an actual relationship with. Which makes them betas and Tim a gamma with how he can't even close the deal. At some point while this was all going on, Tim brought in his own web developer who deleted all of Chris's content when he reworked the site. The signs were there that Tim was slowly trying to work him out of the company, besides the signs of him wanting to get in that chick's panties. But Chris didn't see the ones with his troubles, even though it is clear he could see his brothers with her. It's too bad he didn't, too. From there, without his knowledge, Tim and the female friend he's a simp to went to Connecticut and registered an LLC with a similar name to the Subverse's actual LLC in New Jersey. They then transferred all of the assets of the legitimate LLC to their new one and kicked Chris out of the company as an owner. But Tim sure was nice in offering him a job as a reporter at the company he believed he still owned from the sound of things only minutes prior to the offer. No hard feelings, bro. I know I just anally raped you like the leather-clad gimp that raped Vin Raines in Pulp Fiction, but I want you to come work for me at the company I just stole from you. All of these things Tim and the girl he'll never fuck did here are highly illegal, not to mention beyond immoral and lacking any sort of character. Yet no one is really talking about it. Yes, there have been some people who've chimed in. Jeremy, aka The Quartering, aka Quarter Pounder, the defender of people with larger subscriber counts who do violent and inexcusable things. He was one of them, looking for his getting clicks fix. Which isn't surprising in all honesty when he's defended Sargon being in the middle of Kraut's gay ops multiple times. Not to mention Sargon trying to label Mr. Medicare as a kid diddler for making fun of his suit that he wore to the EU Parliament after bragging about it while claiming Medicare probably doesn't even own one. So for him to go and defend Tim stealing Chris's company from him and then get over $1 million in venture capital after he did, I wouldn't have expected anything less. Which, oh yeah, bet you didn't know that after Tim kicked Chris out of the company illegally, he managed to sell a chunk of it for 7 figures. Which I'm going to get into a little later on here where we're getting ahead of ourselves. Another that talked about the situation was Ethan Ralph. He had Chris Poole on the kill stream so he could tell his side of the story to Ethan's audience and make his case for why he dropped the bomb about Subverse and Tim on Twitter. Which of course Tim's white knight and savior Jeremy had to show up and defend him there. Because Tim of course cannot defend himself. Or maybe it's just the fact that he figures if he ignores the situation it will just go away. Which is the smart play considering Quarter Pounder really doesn't cross over to Tim's neck of the woods from his cringe-filled corner of YouTube where he spurgs out about SJW bullshit in comics and movies for the clicks. But that's just my opinion on why Tim is silent, and I'm just calling it how I see it. I have put links to both the kill stream with Chris Poole and the Quarterings video attempting to discredit him for you to check out for yourself so you can make up your own minds. That being said, I'm now going to throw my 2 cents in beyond what I already have with this whole situation. When it comes to it all, with Subverse, Tim and what he did shows the true character of the man. When someone will slime their way into a family member's business and then steal it from them because they see the potential of it, especially if a sibling or parent, they are a complete and total scumbag who cannot be trusted. They make sleazy used car salesmen look like good and productive members of society. Ambulance-chasing attorneys have nothing on them because they wouldn't even screw over their own flesh and blood for a payday. A loan shark wouldn't even try to screw over a family member to make money. Yet Milquetoast, fence post sitting, innocent looking Tim, he is willing to stab his own brother in the back while slicing his throat in the name of making a buck. This is when little do we know he's already a millionaire because of YouTube ad revenue and viewer donations. Which just goes to show how much of a money-grubbing scumbag he is when you think about it. With his subscribers, Tim is trying to play it like he's just getting by and living somewhat comfortably. I should hope he is when he is currently making over $150,000 a month from YouTube ad revenue alone at this point, according to his brother. That's more than a lot of people in this country make in a year, yet he wants us to believe that he's making far less than that. It is part of the little persona he's created for all of us, the almost broke skater turned journalist. He's that little independent content creator who made his bones going out and getting the story that has turned into someone who provides commentary to news stories, a term I'm using loosely, from the legacy media. This is while doing it from the perspective of sitting with a fence post firmly planted up his ass. This persona is what he used to sell a chunk of Subverse to the venture capitalist for over $1 million. It is just a little convenient after he steals the company from his brother, it hits a payday like that shortly after doing it. It is almost as if that was Tim's plan to do just that. I'm not saying that it was, but it sure does look a fucking tad convenient timing-wise. Looking at that, to me, it seems like he wanted to cut his brother out of the financial windfall of the investment. All of this aside though, beyond it, why haven't we heard Tim screaming from the rooftops at all that Subverse has received this kind of funding and as a result we will see the fruits of the investment in the quality of the site and the content it produces? Could it be that he doesn't want people to really know that it has that kind of money just in case he decides to milk supporters who are average people like you and me through crowdsourcing more? If I was a betting man, I would put money on that being one of the reasons why we haven't heard anything about it. Another thing I put my money on is he probably sold the site out and had to give up at least some creative control in order to get that money. Because that is usually the standard operating procedure when dealing with venture capital people. Which you have to wonder if they knew then what Tim did in order to get the product he sold them with Subverse. Or, if they know now, the question is, would they even care what the kind of money that they have with their putting 7 figures into it like they did? Long before this, for the longest time, my gut had been telling me that Tim's milquetoast, fence post sitting good guy persona was all just an act. A sham he created to con people into believing he's a safe, unbiased source for news-related content that is agenda-free. I knew he did have one. Everyone generally has one. I just wasn't sure what his was, not having all the facts. Now I know what it is. The only agenda Tim cares about is pocketing that almighty dollar. It doesn't matter if that means conning a bunch of subscribers into supporting him directly or by enabling ads on his videos, or by stealing his brother's company from him so he can piecemeal its equity out to venture capitalists. I also know that he's a con artist. In order to pull off all the things he has, you have to be one. You have to be a confidence man in order to free people of their money or something else of value like he has consistently done with his subscribers. That being the case, like any con man, you cannot trust what comes out of his mouth. You cannot trust anything he says. There is no way to know if his opinions are actually his own and what he believes. There is no way we can trust him or any of it. On top of this, there are certain lines decent people do not cross, and 2 of them are you don't steal from and or screw over your own flesh and blood in the name of making profit. That is, unless you're a Ferengi. Which as far as I know, with only seeing a couple pictures of Tim without his beanie, he isn't one. Plus, Quark is much better looking than him. Hell, any Ferengi is when he's rocking the EMH Mark I's hairdo and not doing it well. At least he doesn't have his short-lived comb over. If someone will do that to their own family, there is nothing stopping them from doing it to anyone else. That is the type of person you don't turn your back on, and I am betting if this came back to bite Tim in the ass, he'd try selling Quarter Pounder down the river to save himself. He'd probably try claiming he never said the things that he did to him to try to justify stealing Subverse from Chris. Which you're going to love this justification for it. I know I did. Only a moron who overestimates their intelligence would think this is a good one to use. Supposedly, Chris stopped working on Subverse at some point according to what Tim stated to Jeremy, and that is somehow justification for him and the woman he's a simp to stealing Subverse and its related intellectual property from him. To that, all I have to say is this. I don't give a shit if he did or did not stop working on it, and no one else should care either if he did. Whether he did or not has absolutely no bearing on his ownership of the company, and it is just being used to deflect from the heart of the issue. Chris could sit on his ass all day huffing poppers between taking hits of crack while masturbating to hentai porn, and it still wouldn't matter. He is still entitled to his share of the company he had left after Tim and the woman I am sure he wants to slip his little Asian-inspired sausage into weaseled their way into it. The fact of whether he did anything or not does not enter into the equation of ownership. Not only that, there wouldn't have been a Subverse worth stealing if it wasn't for him. He created that business. Their attempt at trying to sell what Tim and the woman he will never sleep with did as justification for stealing it is no different than when Obama tried to tell small business owners they didn't create their own business and they didn't deserve the fruits from them. Doing that didn't work for him with average Americans. But this group of big brain geniuses thinks it's going to work with people who get their news online, tend to be skeptical, and are capable of critical thinking. Which goes to show how stupid both Tim and Jeremy think all of us are, thinking their bullshit is going to fly with all of us. We need to show both of them that we are far more intelligent than they give us credit for. We need to call out they're trying to justify the theft of Subverse from Chris, because there is no justification for it. We need to make this something that does not go away. It needs far more attention brought to it. This needs to haunt Tim and Jeremy too for his white knighting for him, like Chris Rock and Bernie Mac confronting the vice president and head of state to get a debate.
How about when you're...
What you looking for, the news? The news is we want a debate.
No!
What you change the channel for?
He's scared. He's scared.
Oh,
He's scared.
God.
Here's a word from our sponsor.
We want a debate. I thought I told you that we won't stop. I thought I told you that we won't stop. I thought I told you that we won't stop.
People need to know what kind of person each of them is. More so Tim, of course, considering he's the one who stole Subverse, but that doesn't mean Jeremy shouldn't have some of the attention focused on him as well for trying to run cover for him. Which I'd be happy if he got more attention brought to his running cover than he pays to his personal hygiene in all honesty. Which it is clear he doesn't spend much time on that from the looks of things with how greasy his hair and face usually are. What they did was not right, and they need to know there are consequences to their actions. If that means their credibility takes a hit, so be it. If that means they lose subscribers and people financially supporting them, again, so be it. Just because they're bigger than Mundane Matt, the Boulder King, it doesn't mean their actions are above reproach. Matt was disgraced for doing something far less worse than they have ever done with his flagging people's videos, and he deserved what he got. Why shouldn't they get what they deserve? Now, I know with what I've said here that there are going to be some who try to claim that I'm doing this for the clicks. That I'm punching up hoping to make a name for myself. To that I say, that is their opinion and they are entitled to it. I don't care what anybody thinks. It's not like I would get clicks anyways with how I'm shadow banned and sequestered off my own little corner out on YouTube anyways. I am doing this because I feel it is the right thing to do. I believe that people have the right to know the character of the people they get their news, information, politics, and commentary from. It is the only way they can make an informed decision on how much they can trust those people as sources for them. Because if they do not know that person isn't trustworthy, and I could have informed them that they weren't, but I didn't, I am no more trustworthy than they are because I am turning a blind eye to what they are doing. That is the only agenda I have. That being said, I'm going to let you all decide for yourselves and form your own opinions regarding Subverse, Tim and Chris Poole, the quartering, and everything surrounding this whole situation. Watch Chris Poole on the kill stream and then watch Jeremy's video. Don't just take what I have said here. Make up your own minds. If you feel that my video has merit and this situation with Tim Poole and Subverse deserves more attention, please share it with others. If you liked this video, depending on where you are watching it, please give it an upvote or thumbs up. If you want to know when new content of mine hits the internet, don't forget to subscribe to one or more of my social media or video accounts listed here. Also, with YouTube, don't forget to ring that bell. You can find all of my video content on both BitChute and YouTube. This may not be the case with other places I upload to, but I will try to minimize this happening. You are always welcome to interact with me at any of these sites on the list, so feel free to do so. If you have anything you want me to cover in a video when it comes to news or current events, send it right along to me. I will try to do my best to cover it. As always, thank you for watching.